simple on that level. We could keep it simple, and I'll just like jump in on. First of all, for those who don't know, Invincible is a series on Amazon Prime or Amazon. One of these animated series that they stepped into. Once again, just trying to expand their horizon and step into the arena of some really cool shit. So shut up, Handle. Um, but Invincible is a comic book series that was done by Image Comics. It came out by Image, and it's really good. It's a gritty, no holds barred, violence, honest take on the superhero brand. And I don't even like necessarily to use. We talked about this before, but I don't even necessarily like to use the term superhero because while it does contain superhero elements, it is in fact very human in content and in the presentation. But the basic premise of Invincible is that you've got you got your Justice Leagues and you've got your Avengers and you got your Titans, so to speak, because it mirrors or plays on a lot of the typical heroes from DC or Marvel. Um, and these heroes are in a world where everybody knows about heroes and they're fighting and they're doing their thing against various villains from all over the place, whether it be alien invaders or mole men or what have you. And the main character of the story is a young man who has no powers, but he's the son of one of the most powerful superheroes in this world. And then he comes of age and he suddenly gets his powers. And the story focuses on him and on his journey of becoming a hero and the many ups and downs that come with that. It's very reminiscent to Kick Ass, except for the fact that this guy is bad as fuck. He's got true power, and playing on that whole with great power comes great responsibility element. A lot of shit that this brother gets into, he gets into it because I mean, when you got super strength and shit like that, imagine the first time you hit somebody, or imagine the first time you do something. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna go all Kal-El on Metropolis and like fuck up every building and like fuck up some commas for the government. Insurance premiums are gonna skyrocket all because you develop some superpowers. But yeah, that the show is great. The show is great. I definitely appreciate it. There are 3 episodes on right now. I'm not sure how many episodes there will be going forward, but we will make sure that we tune into them. I'll probably start getting into a more detailed commentary on it this week. Um, Unlike Justice League, Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, I thought I was gonna break that down, but I really just didn't care. Not that I didn't like the movie. I really appreciated it, but it just didn't demand me to really go into much on it. Everybody kind of it was enough of that. I mean, everybody saw it, so it was no need for me to go break it down step by step. Not especially since they're not going to continue the Snyder universe at all. That's an important part of that. If they were going to really continue that universe and expand upon those characters and all of the plot points that they opened up in that movie, it'd be worth going into. But at this point, since they're not, fuck it. I did a small little brief one with Handel and Jiva on the HTMFL segment of the Amby Warhol show that took place on. You can find it on YouTube. You can also find it on my Facebook page, Amby Warhol. So definitely take a look at that and see what you can see. What's good, Maxie? I see you. So yeah, definitely if you get a chance, and you haven't watched Invincible already, highly recommend it. Overall, the show is good. Overall, we're talking characters, we're talking story, we're talking presentation. The animation is smooth, it's great. We're not talking anime, we're talking animation, and animation, contrary to popular belief, is good. And in many instances, is good. Just think about Avatar and think about the many other animations that we love. This is right up there, and it's gonna be a doozy. This is gonna be a hefty one. What's up, Jiva? So that's enough on that series. Side note, it was suggested or it was mentioned to me that I say a lot. I say because I think fast, and the gives me a moment. But I really don't like saying so I'm gonna ask you guys to hold me to not saying so much and to focus and concentrate on saying words specifically and directly without the filler words, without the ums and the all that. So if I say other than when I say it consciously in these moments, if I say call me on it, point it out, handle, drag me, do what you do. Yeah, right. I ain't on that. Not trying to say too much. We're gonna cut that out today. So Maxie said it's not true. There are talks to reinstate story elements of Snyderverse. You know, it would be wise if I'm sorry, if DC or Warner Brothers or HBO Max, whichever of them have the power to make that decision, decided to do something with these great stories. It's honestly a no-brainer in my opinion. For those who didn't catch the word on the wind, the whisper is that Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League like broke shit down when it came to streaming numbers. They don't honestly reveal their streaming numbers in detail. They just say we did good or we did great or it was number one, et cetera, et cetera. So the word on the wind is that it's number one, and right now the the intent to promote or to reinstate the Snyder Cut with a excuse me, there goes campaign with a campaign. They're at like 1.5 million signatures, where to release the Snyder Cut, I think they made it to 1 million, and they're already at 1.5 million. So that's all good for me. I really do want them to continue with the Zack Snyder Cut, his universe that he built, Snyderverse. His Batman is unquestionably my favorite Batman. His Bruce Wayne is my favorite Bruce Wayne. And I say that loosely because I did appreciate Bruce Wayne in the Dark Knight series. I did appreciate Bruce Wayne in that series. So, but this Bruce Wayne, the sheer mass, the sheer presence of his physical form makes me feel confident. Unlike Christian Bale's Batman, I wasn't confident that Christian Bale could walk into any bar and start a fight with the biggest, baddest motherfucker in there and walk out. This Bruce Wayne, this Batman, I believe would be able to whoop anybody's ass that isn't superpowered and probably take down a few superpowered people as well. So I can appreciate a menacing, physically present Bruce Wayne that when you see him, you looking at him like, what you eating, nigga? Like, what are you doing? You could tell, like, this dude is, like, swole. Like, his suits fit like Vince McMahon suits fit. And in some instances, you expect him to walk around as Bruce Wayne like Vince McMahon. You know, walking in all super confident and super, super beast. Yeah, and it's not just Christian Bale being 5'7". Christian Bale's physique was while cut and while toned, he was slim. You know what I'm saying? He was slim. He was not a dude that I would think like the way at the level that Ben was in these movies. I would think that he would be able to walk up to even some wrestlers and put them in their place. And that's important to me. That's important because again, Batman is this guy that is supposed to whoop ass and take names for anybody that approaches him. And in most instances, he will take down multiple people at the same time. And I like that. Yeah, Bale wasn't the break him up Batman, and his fighting style was lacking to me. There wasn't enough in his fighting style for me to be confident that he could even really do what he was doing in those films. Yes, he had the gauntlets on and he hit you with a forearm or he elbow you and he do all these different things, but he got put in his place by a dog, a big dog, as he said. and that's weak to me. You know, I expect Batman to have some issues at certain points circumstantially, but I don't see no dogs jumping on Ben and making him have a pause moment or even having to think twice about it. I don't see Ben. I see Ben snatching that mug out the air and tossing it like how Steppenwolf was tossing horses. Like, get the fuck out of here. Go get it. Go get a treat. Go get a Scooby snack. Get out of here. So yeah, and that's true. He did rely on gadgets, and that's what made him also a little weaker because as you saw when he went against a guy of equal skill set, but more menacing, Bane, that Bane would not be able to fuck with Ben Affleck. That the Batfleck. That just fact that Bane would have got murked by Ben Affleck. And so that's also important because while Bane was a little swole, Bane still was not a menacing, like he looked the part in terms of that film. Nah, nah, not even close. Yeah, it was interesting. But anyway, we were talking Invincible, and then we kind of deviated just on the strength of cool shit that's going on. I didn't want to go into any spoiler territory with Invincible because a few people haven't seen it, and understandably so. It's an unknown property that just stepped on the scene, and for those who weren't familiar with the comic, they may have flew under their radar. So we'll get into some Invincible later at different points throughout the week. I'll figure that out and I'll keep you guys posted on that. But always, if you haven't seen Invincible, watch it because it's badass all the way through. So enough about that. Let's get into the goodies, goodies, goodies. Oh, one thing I did want to mention about what happened in the news this week. For those who don't know, or for those who do know, but here's just my approach on it or my perspective. Biden is planning to do an executive order to address gun violence, or more specifically, he wants to ban or restrict AR-15s. Whatever, there's a lot of the propaganda around about AR-15s and they're this, they're this, and this, and this, and this, and this. But here's a couple of facts that we have to look at. Number one, a gun is a tool, and that tool is useless until a person with malintent or with the desire to hurt somebody gets a hold of it and uses it in the wrong way. So the idea that putting restrictions on the legality of how to obtain a firearm is a little off-putting because I'm not a fan of big government. I'm not a fan of government involving themselves in my life. And if you know Frank, then Frank don't fuck with that at all. The government fucked over Frank really, really, really bad. And he ain't down for government involvement in his life. He barely want to pay taxes, which is why he worked those jobs, non-union labor, where he get paid cash under the table. Frank is smart. But no, seriously, the idea that people believe that if you make it stricter for law-abiding citizens to obtain a weapon, they won't use a weapon. They'll just go home and wash their hands and feel better about themselves. And if they're having a bad day, they'll suddenly have a good day because the law forbids you to do what you're doing. But let's look at that. Number one, if I'm going to commit a murder, I'm already in the context of breaking the law. So fuck the law. Like if I'm murdering, breaking a fucking gun law to commit the fucking murder, what the fuck is that? What does it matter? I'm trying to kill somebody. I'm already intending to break the fucking law, and the murder is far worse than I got the gun illegally. So go ahead and restrict the use or the way in which a person gets guns. The person who wants to get a gun will get a gun. And even better, if they can't get the damn AR-15, they'll get something else. It's already statistic. It's already statistically stated that shotguns have killed more people in a year than AR-15s. Shotguns. Think about it. Shotguns kill more people than AR-15s. Even more people have been killed by bare hands or by being stomped, literally. Statistically, more people are killed by people with their bare hands than AR-15s and shotguns. Further still, even more people are killed in a year by stabbing, usually with a knife. So you have to understand, from my opinion, the politics of all this. Why they're pinpointing the AR-15, in my opinion, because I don't really know what their intention is, but observing and reading between the lines, there's a couple of things that are very clear about the scenario. Number one, who are the people demographically that use AR-15s in shootings in our society? I'll wait. Anybody can answer this question. It's pretty obvious. Okay, it's these guys. Not the brown coats, but this demographic. For those who don't see, this demographic is the ones who do all the AR-15 shootings and mass shootings in the United States. They look like this. So in this scenario, you are witnessing individuals being the blame is being shifted from the people that are doing these mass shootings to the weapon itself, saying that the weapon is the problem, assuming that a stricter gun law will stop them from committing these weapons. Committing these atrocities. But fun fact, there was very, very, very strict gun laws in place during the Columbine shooting. Look it up. Just a historical reference for people to think about. So if strict gun laws prevent mass shootings, we have to historically look at the Columbine shooting and how that was possible. If a person doesn't have access to an AR-15, they will choose another weapon to do whatever they're going to do. So the politics of this, I'm over it. And I'm really not a fan of big government involving themselves in every single aspect of our lives as if, and yes, some people may act like children, but I ain't one of them. So forcing me to have to, I'm in Chicago, so I already got some of the most ridiculous gun laws that the nation has. Unnecessarily ridiculous, while at the same time we still have gun murders. But the fact is, niggas on the block ain't using AR-15s. Sorry, they're not. They're using something else. And the question where they're getting those guns from is also a part of the politics, because in the instance of gangbangers, they blame the gangbangers. In the instance of these AR-15 using mass shooters, they're blaming the gun. Total bullshit. For real, you can use anything. You can use a plastic bag. You can use whatever. If a white dude is having a bad day, he can go and try to kill someone with his hands and get whooped. Mass murders are possible with these ARs. So do you think that you can't kill anybody with a handgun? You walk into a nail salon with a bunch of women and just start shooting people with rounds? Do you know that the speed difference between an AR-15 and a handgun, besides the number of rounds they carry, is not that significant when you add up how many people have been shot? It don't matter. It don't matter. You're not going to blame a gun for the problem. If you blame the gun for the problem, you are part of the problem, because you're acknowledging the lack of accountability of men who commit these crimes, because that's not the conversation anyone's having. The men who commit these crimes are the problem. And until we address that part of the problem, fuck the weapon. I don't care what weapon. He could use a fucking paper plane and paper cut me to death. If he fucking killed me, he killed me. I don't care how he did it. It's not worse that I die by a fucking million paper cuts, or less worse because I die by a gun. I don't give a fuck how I die. If the motherfucker killed me, he killed me. So fuck all of that. It ain't the gun, it's the people. So we need to address the psychology of the people that are committing these mass murders. What is it that is driving these people? I'm not going with all the excuses they come up with. I'm not rolling. I can't deal with it. And they're always choosing weaker victims. Ain't these super psychotic AR-15 wielders running into the hood and letting off in the hood? Why not? They know better. They're choosing their attacks, which means they're cognitive of the process. They're able to strategize how they're going to do it. These aren't random things. That's why they came up with the term identity extremists. They just need to specify who's the ones that are doing these. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. It's silly. Death is death, and murder is murder, and one murder is not worse than another because it was using the AR-15. Yeah. They won't go against people that might be able to fight back or shoot back because they know that they don't want that smoke. So it's a conscious effort that they're dealing with, and the conscious effort is the reason why the politics of it is AR-15s are bad, but more people are killed by other things. Yet everybody got a knife in their kitchen, and a 3-inch knife. I can kill someone with a 3-inch knife, but a 3-inch knife is legal to carry on your person without any type of requirements, any type of laws, or any type of restrictions. And we know that stabbings are the highest way that people have been killed in the U.S. So it's a very difficult conversation because we have these people whose lives have been lost, and we want to find a root cause, and we're not focusing on the root cause. We're focusing on aspects of the root cause. And here's the question, since we're on that right quick, is is hate, is racism a mental illness? I don't even want to think so because a mental illness is something that you're not programmed with. It's not something that you can be taught. You can't be taught mental illness. You can't be you can't be um just like wake up one day with something wrong and suddenly think racist views. That's not a mental illness. There could be other underlying factors, but the ultimate reality is that I can't go with that mental illness aspect when the people that are usually killed are very targeted for different reasons. It's a lot more going on in these situations than just mental illness, and I think they've kind of given up and abandoned that overarching idea. They've let that go, and that was a thing that they tried to do in the early 2000s, was claim that it was mental illness, and that was the escapism. But it's happening enough from people who are identified by people who knew these accusers, that there was nothing wrong with them. They just had racial or prejudiced views, sometimes against people of a different nationality or ethnicity, sometimes from people of a different gender, sometimes from people of a different sexual preference. The fact of the matter still remains is that they're cognitive and they're choosing their philosophical position, their political allegiance, and then they're exercising their choice to oppress and terrorize these particular groups of people that they don't like. So yeah, it's a deep conversation, and I think it's one that needs to continue on as yeah, that's a good, yeah, accepting it as okay is a mental illness. I mean, the truth is that at the end of the day, whatever is giving people this frame of mind, and that's a conversation that I don't think that we should get into. I mean, that requires a lot of talk about psychology and a lot of talk about even the ideas that are normalized in our society that enable things like this to happen, and then for a police chief to respond with just a bad day. These are the concepts that need to be addressed and need to be talked about. So, you know, the idea that people believe, I grew up watching GI Joe. I grew up watching violence, like Terminator, like everybody else. I grew up watching guns blazing. I grew up at different aspects of my life in the hood, with people around me doing hood shit. And it's not enough to say that, well, violence is caused by this, that, and the third. There's a little bit more to it than that. And if anybody hasn't seen Higher Learning, John Singleton film, watch Higher Learning. There's a character in Higher Learning that his ignorance of the reality of the world was exploited by a hate group so that they can add him to their roster and fill their numbers base. It was a great film, and it deals with a lot of the things that we're dealing with today. These people are being chosen because they already hold certain sentiments, and if I can manipulate or exploit these sentiments, the end result is I can win you over to my political view, and next thing you know, you about that life, and you aggressively terrorizing other people. So we have to really go into that. And that's something that our society is not willing to do, because in order to do that, you have to address the conditions that this society has established, the social norms of white supremacy and the social norms of racism as a everyday thing. Frank don't like that. Frank's best friend was a white guy, and they fought and died together. And yet here he is to tell his tale. So let's see here. What'd you say? And they did turn him quite easily. Yes, they did, because it's a science. When you deal with cults, or when you deal with groups of people who need to recruit, evangelism for your faith, or evangelism for your political views. Evangelism is a tactic. It is a strategy. It requires a lot of manipulation. It requires a lot of psychology, understanding the way a person thinks. It requires a lot of play on all of those elements, magnetism. So when you have individuals who are able to be drawn into these scenarios, a part of it is that the process of how to manipulate, because they want the most charismatic person to be their recruiter, to go out there and draw people up. But at the same time, that only goes as far as, number one, the viewpoints of the individual that align with some of the viewpoints of these hate groups, number one. Number two, it requires ignorance on the part of that individual in relation to other people, whether it's, again, ethnicity, nationality, sexuality, gender, or whatever. So our society introduces these sentiments in very subtle layers to that normalize it. Then we have an individual who sees you with a certain viewpoint, and so they want to tap into that, and they want to exploit that. They want to manipulate that to turn you into a member of their group. So you have two parts to that. So it's the education side that our society lacks, because they don't focus on it. They focus on everything but. And ultimately, all that we're talking about leads right into what this episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is actually about. It's about the normalization of certain things in society and the way they play out. We watched this episode. It's called The Star-Spangled Man. I specifically call it The Star-Spangled Man with a stand, not a plan, but a stand, because John Walker as Captain America is supported by Lamar Hoskins, aka Black Star, Black dude. And the at different parts of this episode, they constantly bring up certain societal norms that affect people of color, that affect Black people, and they play on it so well, and that it's like you really feel it when it happens. I mean, from the very start of this episode, you've got John Walker walking into a brass band, jamming, you know, um, as Black colleges do, getting it in, going hard. And he's trying to fit in. He's just trying to, he's just playing his part. He's a part of. He's not intentionally trying to do anything wrong with the captain moniker, but he definitely is there for reasons other than simply, oh, he's the best qualified. Although, no disrespect to him, because as they showed, he's got the accolades to support it. Dude's a badass, point blank. He's a badass. But they did not even think about the fact of how they didn't, like, as we know, they didn't even ask Sam at all. They didn't even talk to him about it. They didn't even consider him. He was just automatically considered, as later in the episode, Walker even says, "You're a wingman. Cap needs his wingman." They see him as nothing more than a wingman. So Sam is not, in their minds, able to be Captain America, because that's who he is. Yeah, that intro was blackety black, and it was, and respectfully, I appreciate that, because they're not holding back from this. But nonetheless, Walker's got it. Bucky don't like it. Bucky's sitting steaming. He pissed. So he immediately rolls up on Sam like, "Yo, the fuck you doing?" You know, Sam's already heard this probably from 20 different people. I'm pretty sure that everybody and his mama then called him on giving up that shield. So Bucky coming at him with it, he was like, "Look, dude, step off. You go do your thing." And Sam's in the middle of it, trying to go to Munich to do a mission to find the Flag Smashers, who, interestingly enough, the Flag Smashers represent a group of people who have developed a disdain for the way in which the world has evolved after the snap and after the blip brought the people back. They adapted to the world that existed before. They probably like their autonomy. They probably like their freedom. They're like a modern version of an anarchist group, and they want to return to a borderless, governmentless world. And in that regard, they've been doing things that put them on the radar in a bad way. We're not sure we know they stole some money in the first episode, but in this episode, that's where Sam's going. He's trying to address them. Bucky kind of forces himself along, and we have this great moment where they grunt at each other. Then Sam leaves him on the plane after they grunt, and it's a 200 feet drop, and we have this nice moment that is reminiscent to Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where in the beginning Rogers jumped out of the plane without a parachute. He jumped into water though, and yes, 200 feet down, Bucky says, "I'm gonna go without a parachute," and he falls like a fucking brick. He just plops his ass on the ground. Sam makes fun of him some more. He grunts, and they end up finding the Flag Smashers, have their more grunting sessions, and boom, a hostage is assumed to be involved, and Bucky springs into action like, "I'm on it." Bucky goes running, and yeah, that whole scene where where they're having their grunting, and Bucky's sneaking around being all stealth, and Sam's like, "Yeah, the White Panther," and Bucky's like, "White Wolf," and then Sam, having never heard of that, is like, "What?" But like the whole way that they banter and they grunt at each other and they go back and forth is brilliant. It's very fitting for who they are. So Bucky goes in, sees the girl that he thinks is a hostage. It turns out to be a super soldier. She mollywops him, and then he starts getting handled by super soldiers. Sam flies in, gets pinned by super soldiers, and they're about to get stomped, and then here comes Captain Walker. Sidebar: Captain Walker, for those who may not remember, that's who everybody thought Max Rockatansky was in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Those kids thought he was Captain Walker, and I just thought that was hilarious that that John Walker, he's used Captain America or Captain Walker, and that's literally sidebar. It was interesting to me. Sorry. Moving on. So they getting their bus whipped, and Walker shows up, tossing the shield and doing the best that he can, and followed by his little sidekick, Black Battlestar, and they can't handle it either. Even together, they can't handle it because they're all super soldiers, and there's only one super soldier on that supporting side. So they get whooped, they get put in their place, and they're walking off now after Sam and Bucky just accept their L. So they're walking down the street, and then Mr. Big Chin, yeah, as everybody says, walks up on him and is like, "Yo, you should join me." Bucky's like, "Fuck you, dude. You ain't Cap. I don't know you. Get the fuck out of here." And then they grunt some more. And again, Walker mentions the big three in this moment, which is hilarious. So the big three is obviously a government thing that people that are working with the government have been talking about or discussing. No, Walker wasn't that impressive, other than throwing the shield and the fact that that he pulled that pistol out. But to be fair, the Winter Soldier, when he took his chance at being Cap with the shield, he carried guns and shot motherfuckers too. So yeah, I'm not mad at him, and he was a good shot. So even though fighting against super soldiers, the only person I expected to even come out of that okay was Bucky, and the rest of them, they got handled. So what we find at this particular point now is that The Flag Smashers are doing some type of something with medical supplies. We assume that they're providing medical supplies to people in need in areas where the GRC, the Global Recreation Council, has not yet reached with their aid and support for the blipped people. The Global Repatriation Council is an organization or government entity which John and Lamar work for. It's designed to help bring people back into a sense of normalcy in their lives, because obviously within that 5-year period during the snap, obviously your social security, you were dead, so all of your shit gone. You have nothing of in your name. Your whatever house you had gone, and even if you had a house, you saw, like when Ant-Man was walking up the block, if you come back 5 years later and that's your house, it's not livable. So you come back, no job. Not everybody was as lucky as Monica to walk back to Sword and just be like, oh, you're back, okay, cool. A lot of people, no job, no options, no nothing. So the Global Repatriation Council is the world's support to help people get adjusted back into life. But they're not doing a good job. And as the Flag Smashers have stated, they're kind of fucking up the situation by focusing on people who were blipped, therefore not giving support and aid to the people who were there for the 5 years suffering during that time period, which is a reasonable argument and something that we typically see when we think about governments and how governments operate. The government is not a deity. The governments are not invincible, and it's the reason why we shouldn't expect them to do everything. But in this particular instance, the Flag Smashers have taken upon themselves to do what they think is best to try to return things to the way they were, to the way they had been during the blip when half the population was gone. So what we do find, though, in the midst of all this, is that the Flag Smashers have stolen something very important from an unknown entity. We later find out that unknown entity is in fact the power broker, and by the name, you can assume that the thing that they stole from the power broker was probably their powers, the super soldier serum that he developed, his own variation of the super soldier serum. And the power broker is very much somebody from the comics, and the way this is the way that this is playing out, I wager that the power broker is going to end up giving John Walker an actual super soldier serum, which is what's going to make him the familiar character that we know with powers. So it's cool that they got the power broker and that they're mentioning him by name, and he is the power broker, and they're scared of him. Think about that. This is a group of these are super soldiers. They're running from the power broker. What does that tell you about him and his situation? It's about to be beast. It's about to be some serious shit going down. So yeah, the power broker's coming for their ass. They stole the super soldier serum from them, and now we have a whole nother realm of possibility in the association of the power broker and super soldiers, and the fact that there are people who can go to this man and pay to be given superpowers. So we're about to see some shit happening based off of this. A lot of new attempted heroes, a lot of new attempted villains, probably more villains than heroes. But nonetheless, we're now at this point where Bucky and Sam have left Captain America and Battlestar, mostly because they're douches and they don't really show respect to their elders. The people who came before them, the Avengers who do this shit for a living. John has let Captain America moniker and the shield go to his head, and he believes at this particular point that they should be supporting him because he's the man. And so they walk off like, keep your arrogance to yourself, Big Chin. We don't want you. So in this moment, Bucky and Sam are like, well, we don't have nothing. We're screwed. And then Bucky's like, no, I want somebody. Huge moment. Huge moment. We get Isaiah Bradley. Like, if you don't know who Isaiah Bradley is, I highly recommend you read up on him and you dig into his history. Isaiah Bradley was what people typically identify as the Black Captain America. He literally was a variation of the Captain America concept, and he was an ass whooper. He was an ass whooper, as he said. Everybody kept trying to take down the Winter Soldier, and they couldn't. So, and we're talking about during the Korean War time. So, yeah, see, he's supposed to be the first Captain America. That's a fact. But in this variation, he's after Rogers, which I guess it makes sense because technically, if he was alive all the way back then, I'm not sure what city he would have been in at this particular point in the story. But Isaiah Bradley is a badass. So he tells you, like, yeah, last time I saw you, Bucky, I ripped half your arm off. Like, I beat the shit out of you, bro. Like, what the fuck you doing at my doorstep? Step on. And so they get into their little grunting, and as Bucky's trying to reason with him, like, yo, I'm here for a reason. He's like, yo, fuck you, fuck your people, and fuck your people too, and fuck them people, because y'all motherfuckers, after what I did for this country, y'all tortured me for 30 years, taking my blood, experimenting on me, trying to figure out this super soldier shit, and then y'all left me here with nothing. You see where I live. I ain't got shit. I ain't on shit. I can't do shit. So what we're witnessing is another veteran of the government being left to rot and being treated unjustly. And that is a theme that, as you can see, is recurring through so far in the first two episodes. In the first episode, they demonstrated how, even Falcon, with all of his accolades and his history, he couldn't get along to save his family business. Couldn't get it. Like, yeah, you're Falcon, fuck you. And now we witness a guy who goes all the way back and was a super soldier and was a hero. And the same thing happens. Like, hey, yeah, you that dude, fuck you. So he's pissed, and he ain't fucking with nobody people at this particular point. And that cool moment where Sam's like, Sam tries to interject, and he was like, get out of my house, and then he hurls the tobacco container, the metal container, like wedges into the wall, meaning like this man at that age is still just as much of a super soldier as he was, which gives me hope for Rogers as well, that as old as he is, he probably still strong as fucking can kick somebody's ass. There was a movie that came out with Danny Glover and Machete, and they were going around kicking ass as old dudes. I forgot what the name of this movie was, but that's what that reminds me of. So now they're being kicked out of their house. Now Sam's pissed, like, bro, you knew about this dude all along? You knew about the black man with the super soldier serum powers? Did you tell anybody? You didn't tell me? Like, what the fuck up, bro? He was like, oh, no, I didn't tell you. I didn't, another moment of where Cap had a secret, didn't share. Now we got Bucky. There seems to be a recurring thing between Bucky and Rogers, where they mirror each other in the way they interact and the way they deal with situations. They kind of have this entitlement to information. They withhold shit. And so they're arguing, they're grunting at each other in the street, and police roll up. Police roll up on some real shit, like how they would in real life. They're not focused on Bucky, they're focused on Sam. And then in the middle of all this, they're asking for Sam's ID, telling him to calm down. One puts his hand on his gun because it's Sam. He don't give a fuck. What he probably whooped their ass right then and there. But Bucky's like, oh man, calm down. Just give me your ID. Bucky don't understand. Bucky can't understand. Bucky's not supposed to understand. But Sam understood, and Sam wasn't going. So Bucky finally interjects and was like, yo, chill. You know who that is? They had a moment. Then it clicked. This is what's kind of funny about this. In Bucky's moment of revealing to them that he's a celebrity, so therefore he should not be treated like a common black man, they then interrupt and go and do their little mingling. And the reason why they went to do their mingling was because, number one, y'all worried about the metal armed guy being harassed by the black man in the middle of the street. And it didn't click until you realized that that was Sam Wilson, the Falcon. Oh, well, you with your metal arm, you must be Bucky Barnes. So then they proceed to arrest him because there's a warrant out for his arrest. And I'm pretty sure that warrant went to every police precinct in the nation. I'm pretty sure that he was on everybody's radar. So as soon as they realized what it was, they took him, and Bucky politely went. So now they're, after having this awesome moment where you watch our people, like you watch a situation where police are actually harassing a black man just for being in a situation and not focused on the white guy until it's necessary, which I appreciate the writing and I appreciate the honesty that they keep revealing in this series, because they're not holding back from the black experience as it is. You put a black character in the superhero garbs, will that change the way the world sees them? Probably not. Hence the underlying problem with America. It doesn't matter if you're famous. It doesn't matter if you're a superhero. It don't matter if you save the fucking world. You're still first and foremost a black man, and they will see you as that. And until you are identified otherwise, they will treat you as that. And in many instances, they might not stop. So, like what happened, he still didn't get the loan. So, yeah. Anyway, now he's arrested. In the police station, Sam confronts Dr. Rayner, like, thank you. And she's like, yo, I didn't do this. And then, of course, here comes Captain Walker Chin. And he bailed out Buck because, he's just a condescending, arrogant prick. And Dr. Rayner, realizing that there's something going on between Buck and Sam, decides, I need y'all over here now. We need to address this so that y'all can move forward, because Cap said, I need them to hurry up and do what you got to do. So they sit in this room and she's trying to get them to open up about what's the beef. And she says they have to soul gaze. And these guys doing what they do, they have their stare off, to which Sam loses because she snaps and brings them out of it. Snapping at Sam more specifically is because in that superhero shit, between the two of them, Sam is the rational one. She knows Bucky is a few rocks short of a boulder. Sam is cool. So I'm going to bring Sam out of this because I know he'll listen. So then she tells Bucky to explain what's his beef. And we get this moment where Bucky reveals that just like Sam, he has imposter syndrome. He is concerned that Sam giving up the giving up the shield is a representation that Rogers was wrong about him and that he didn't deserve it, which then lends to the idea that if Rogers was wrong about Sam, then Rogers could be wrong about Bucky, and that Bucky doesn't deserve redemption. So at that moment, there's a moment of clarity that they haven't come to yet, but for us viewing, we see what it is. Both of them are trying to live free of the shadow of their past. Bucky is trying to prove that he is not the Winter Soldier, as he keeps being reminded. Isaiah reminded him, you can't walk away from your past. He's being reminded of his history and that he can't change. Sam was reminded by John Walker just a couple of scenes before that Cap needs his wingman, reminding Sam that you are nothing but a sidekick. You're not meant to be in the head. You're not meant to lead. You're meant to be at someone's side. So both of them, trying to come out of the shadow of the past, are feeling potentially that they are imposters and not ready to show, ready to be what they're meant to be. So I really appreciated that moment and the impeccableness of their writing, that they did that so clean and so smooth, and they just gave them that moment, was brilliant. So the stare off, only to come to the conclusion that they do see eye to eye and that their fucking problem is exactly the same. Therefore, they do have to work together to solve this problem, because they need each other because together they can better come out of the shadow. Not as each other's sidekick, but as equals to each other. So they leave now. Everything's all good. Sam walks out. Walker asks them to join him in working with the GRC. And again, they're like, well, you don't know shit. And honestly, we can work better independently because we don't have to follow all them government rules and regulations that you got, because we're free agents. So for us to work with you would not be behoove us towards the goal. Plus, you don't know shit, and we might know some shit. So we out. So the arrogance comes out of Captain Walker, like, stay out of my way. Stay out of my way. And I thought that moment was very interesting because it lends to the possibility of where we may or may not see them going, in where we might see John's character going in the future. Um, Not saying that he's going to be a villain, but he may not be a nice guy or a friend as much as an adversary when it comes to Sam and his endeavors. So at this point, once again, we're back to the Flag Smashers, and they're trying to leave, and the Power Brokers men show up. And again, so scared as fuck, scatter. They're like, we gotta get the fuck out of here now. They're coming. So, and they freak out, like the deer in the headlights moment. For super soldiers to have that moment, you really got to understand what it means for the rest of them. So whoever the Power Brokers men are, they must be some badasses in their own right if these super soldiers are afraid of them. I mean, we're talking about the super soldiers who just fought Sam, Bucky, Battlestar, and Walker, and didn't flinch once. But nonetheless, they got it in. Thank you for that. So now we come back to Bucky and Sam again at a loss, and they're like, we don't know what to do. And there's a recurring theme that happens. Bucky seems to be the brains of the outfit. Sam doesn't really have options or ideas. Bucky keeps coming up with options. And to be fair, he's 106. Sam is new to the world. But Bucky knows everybody and thinks of everybody. More so because everybody seems to have a connection to him in his past. So he's like, yo, since we talking about my people, and Sam's like, he didn't mean it that way. He was like, no, my people, Hydra, not white people, fool. So Bucky's like, since we talking about Hydra, we need to go see that man who knows everything about Hydra. And Sam's like, oh man, I don't want to go see that nigga. He ain't no good. And Bucky's like, we got to. So then Sam's like, yeah, you're right. So fuck it. Let's go see Zemo. Cue dramatic music and the revelation of probably in my opinion, he is the baddest villain thus far in the Marvel universe, the baddest. But I'll allow him to be considered the second baddest to Thanos. But honestly, this man with no powers, no stones, no gauntlet, nothing, just a regular guy, shut the fucking Avengers down. And all the way to that moment, you understand that they're still dealing with the repercussions of what he did. Zemo, like Bucky, like even that conversation when Bucky was like, "Let's go take the shield from John," and Sam was like, "Yo, I can't do that. Like that. I last time I did that, like I was on the run with Cap for 2 years while your ass was over there in Wakanda being the White Panther, and Sharon, she's all fucked up. So yeah, we can't do this." So Bucky's like, yeah, we can. He's like, no, we can't. No, we can't. No, we can't. So anyway, the fact that that they did this brief moment at the end with music and it was like all dramatic and it was heightened. It was just like lifting. Zemo is that dude. I love Zemo. So there's a bunch of like awesome moments in this particular episode, and the way in which that they present the experiences of both of these characters, and they don't side away from it. They don't deviate. They don't shy away. They hitting this shit head on, and they're approaching everything that is important to what we value about this. So I'm all for everything that this show has been doing, and I'm all for the way they're presenting the Black experience. I'm all for the way they're balancing that, because Bucky's experience is an important one to Sam's journey, because Bucky is a contrast to Sam's understanding of things. And I think that Sam is Bucky's revelation to wake up, and I think Bucky is Sam's revelation to wake up. And I think that we're watching slowly as they figure out their momentum and figuring out their place in the world. It's gonna turn out all right, but they can't steal that shield, because no, that won't end well. And it's really funny because John Walker really thinks that he can whoop somebody ass. Like, how you gonna tell these two dudes to stay out of your way? Like, what you gonna do? Like, Bucky probably would take you out casually and wouldn't even break a sweat. If Bucky stared at you long enough, he would probably kill you just from staring at you. So nah, John needs to chill before they get it in. And with that being said, that is the conclusion of the first of the Amby Warhol show. I appreciate everyone. Tune back in because we're gonna get into the good talk next. We're gonna bring in the Fly Nerd group. We're gonna bring in um, anybody else who want to chop it up. And yeah, man, I appreciate you all. Peace. Stay tuned. We got like 30 seconds.